our next session. So our next session is with Scott Taylor, who is the Associate Professor of Math with Henderson Community College, and his session is called Advising Tools and Technology, Fast Ways to Make the Best Possible Schedules. Dr. Scott Taylor has been at Henderson in some capacity since 2003. He has been a full-time employee since 2011 and a faculty member since 2012. He recently served as his campus advising coordinator and still offers his opinions and assistance whenever asked, and sometimes even when not. That is Scott's words, not mine. Few reminders as we've been going through, just like to reiterate in case you're new to today's conference. In the lower right-hand corner, you'll see a purple arrow icon. You can click on that to activate your chat area. And once that's activated, you will see 4 buttons in the bottom corner. The one on the far left that looks like a chat bubble, you can click on that and that will enter you into the chat area. Feel free to leave questions, comments, anything you'd like to note. Also under the graphic, you will see 4 buttons. The microphone icon is the second icon to the left. If you click on that, I would recommend making sure that there's a slash to that to deactivate that, because having your microphone on can distract people from the actual presentation. So Scott, I will let you take over and start your presentation.
Well, thank you very much. One minor note I might say is that I am not necessarily the associate professor of math at Henderson Community College. I'm an associate professor, although I would like to think sometimes of myself as the associate professor. But yes, I'm Dr. Scott Taylor. I've been around for a really long time. Actually, interestingly enough, and maybe apropos of the situation, I started out as a student at Henderson Community College, and so I remember distinctly setting up advising appointments and meeting with my advisor and trying to work around my school schedule and work schedule and everything to come up with my personal and schedule for work and school and personal life and all that. A lot of us sometimes, especially those of us who are seasoned, we get trapped in our habits, and our habits are habit can be good, but habit can also sometimes be less efficient than learning something new. And so Visual Schedule Builder has been around for it's been around for a little while now. A lot of people I know, they see it, they say, oh, that's great, and then they don't use it. So I'm going to show you Visual Schedule Builder mostly today. I mean, we're going to do a couple other things if we have time, but I'm going to focus mostly on Visual Schedule Builder today, to get away from sometimes, we grab a schedule, we grab the PDF, we grab a printed schedule, we get a piece of paper and we start writing down times and scratching out things, or we'll grab a registration sheet, start filling out this part, and then we'll scratch it out and that sort of thing. And so Visual Schedule Builder can help us do many things. It can, one, be a lot more efficient in coming up with a good schedule for the students. And 2, it can do more complex things than sometimes it's like, oh, well, you can't work Tuesday mornings, but you can work Thursday mornings. Well, that's going to be difficult. So I'm going to focus mostly on Visual Schedule Builder. Before I share my screen and we get started, I might mention that there is a newer version of Visual Schedule Builder coming out. Some of us are piloting that. So I am going to focus on the current version of Visual Schedule Builder. I'm not necessarily going to show you the pilot features, but don't worry. I think that the changes are not going to be so overwhelming, so it's not like I'm teaching you how to use Windows 3.1 and we're rolling out Windows 2000 or something like that. So the changes are not overwhelming. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'm just going to share the entire screen. Okay, yep, there we've got the psychedelic thing right there. I'm going to switch tabs. Oh, I'm not going to switch tabs there. I'm going to switch tabs, and I'm pretty sure on all 16 websites, the path is more or less the same. We all have the education and training link. So if you load up your browser and you have the education and training link, somewhere on that page you would see your website. Your page may have a few different options or whatever, but somewhere on that education and training page you should see Visual Schedule Builder. You're welcome to follow along. By the way, if you ask a question or something, since I've navigated away, I won't be able to tell, so somebody will have to interrupt me. So if we click on Visual Schedule Builder, we're going to come to this landing page, and we've got a bunch of text, but the link is Visual Schedule Builder, and it keeps logging me in. So I'm going to log out. Of course, when you're signed into MyPath, it doesn't want to do it wants to keep you logged in, which is a good thing, except for today. So normally you just click on that. If you're logged in, there's nothing wrong with being logged in, but I kind of wanted to show you this version of not being logged in as maybe a student might see it. Certainly you're welcome to sign in, and that is actually better for a few reasons, and I'll get into those reasons later. So this is the Visual Schedule Builder page. This is maybe not the ideal time for me to show Visual Schedule Builder, because all 16 colleges are still working on their spring 2019 schedules, and it's that weird time where most of the fall classes are not eligible for enrollment right now, except for by terms. It is what it is. But we're going to go ahead and work with spring 19 just because that's what we're going to be registering for here in a few days. So I'm gonna select first. Step one is select a term. So we're going to work with spring 19, and then lots of great colleges out there. I've selected HCC just because I'm most familiar with our classes and offerings. We just have the one campus, but if you're E-Town or Bluegrass or whatever, it might be more meaningful you to select a campus, or maybe not. And then location. This pulls everything from PeopleSoft, everything from Visual Schedule Builder pulls from PeopleSoft. So if we have pretty much ever offered a class anywhere, it's going to show up here. But I might point out, like Heron Tech Center, that's our Union County location. If you're talking to a student and they say, oh, I can't go to Union County, you might just deselect that. If you deselect options up here, though, that does reduce the flexibility down here, and I might show you that a little bit later. But for now, I'm just actually going to keep everything selected, and then we enter in the class. So if you know the class, so for example, you're wanting to, the student needs to take Math 150, that's great. We can just type in MAT 150. If you're like, oh, it's college algebra, I don't remember the number, well, I can just type in college algebra. Oh, and it pulls up a couple of options, but I'm wanting, for this example, MAT 150. I'm going to pause right there, and I'm going to move your attention to the right part of the screen. And I'm going to go into the print and share and favorites here in a little bit. And there's a tip, and there's several tips. There's 4 tips up here. I'm going to ignore that for the time being. We've got our generated results. I'm going to show you the sorting preference here in a little bit. But there are 6 results. So for our purposes, there are 6 different sections of college algebra. And if you notice, and this is a bit newer, by the way, we now have class attributes. This is a quantitative reasoning class. That's useful to know that is a quantitative reasoning class. Not all math classes are quantitative reasoning classes. If I were to type in MAT 205, that is not a quantitative reasoning class. So that attribute is useful if you're looking for a social behavioral, a humanities, and so forth. So we have MAT 150. It's got the name of the course, the number. Also in this first box, and it's color-coded. When I put some more classes in, you'll see what I'm saying. This one starts January 14th and runs through May 12th. It is the regular academic session. We have the section number, so it's 35Z1, the PeopleSoft number, and of course we haven't started registering yet, but as we get closer, we might say, okay, this one has 28 students in it, has 30 students in it, and so forth. And then we've got the college. It's online and open to all students, so the Z usually indicates it's online, but that might be something to note. I'll play with this and show you a little bit later about how we can get rid of or only show online classes. Again, it says World Wide Web, and the instructor is May Jones. And then we have the course description. So that's just kind of nice. Well, we've got 6 choices, and so if we were just taking that one class, we could just sort of scroll through here and find the choice that we like best. And I'll show you how to manipulate that a little bit more later. But let's say that the student also wants to take FYE 105. And when I add just simply one class, I went from 6 iterations of a possible schedule to 17. If I throw in another, it might be several hundred classes options. And Henderson's the smallest college, so your campus is going to have more than just 17 options. So I'm going to start playing around with some filters and so forth. And just to show you that, kind of the same deal down here, we have, because this is not an online class, we have Monday, Wednesday, 12:30 to 1:45. And then in the grid over here, we can see this is Monday, Wednesday, and then we've got an idea that this is 12:30 to 1:45. So I just want to point that out as well. So let's try to whittle down from 17 choices to something that's a little more palpable. So in my sorting preference, the first thing I can do is I can click on sort preference, and I can do most days off. I can sort by morning classes, by midday classes, which at least on my campus seems to be the most popular schedule. People want to be out of here before too late, but they don't want to be here at 8. Evening classes, amount of time on campus, most on campus, avoid online in other words, most Monday, Wednesday, Friday classes, most Tuesday, Thursday classes. So if I select most days off, it's going to give me all online classes. Okay. If I select, and then I can sort through, and it's going to give me the schedules that have most days off. If I click to the end, it's going to violate that. It's going to give me, I've only got 2 classes, and I'm here all 4 days of the week. So I'm going to click back to the beginning. If I wanted to sort by morning classes, again, because it's got the online, it's just going to show me an online. If I turn off the online option, though, then it's going to sort by morning classes, and there just simply isn't an FYE 105 and Math 150 that's morning, at least on our campus. But I can kind of scroll through there, and it's going to give me options. And again, when I go to the if I go to the very last one, it's going to violate that that sorting that I've said, because it's just a sorting preference. So the very last option is going to be all afternoon classes. So again, this is, if you have 5, 6 classes, the sorting preference can certainly help whittle those down. Let me go back to the beginning, and let's do something different. Let's say that we have a student that they just really, I don't know why they would, but let's say they just really like Scott Taylor, and or they really like that time, they really like that room, whatever. If I click, and there's several places I can click. If I click on the course, it's going to pin that course down. I can click to pin it down. I can click on the course itself, and notice if I click again, it unpins. I can click in the blue. Remember, everything's color-coded. I can click over here, and it's going to pin down. Or if I come down to the bottom, I can even pin it down by clicking down here. And for whatever reason, and don't ask me why, when I click down there, the pin shows up. Up here, it doesn't show up down here, but that's fine, it's still pinned. So what does pin mean? Well, notice that we went from 9 options, and let me just to emphasize that, I'm going to turn back on the online classes. So if I went from 17, when I pin that course down, it's going to say, okay, navigate a schedule around that one class. And then everything changes except for the class that I've pinned down. The way I schedule, the way I work with a student is, once we like a class, or once we decide we want to do this, I'll just pin down all of the classes, and then once all the classes are pinned down, I have one schedule. That's the schedule that we like. Okay, a couple more while I'm talking about the sort preference. If you notice, we've got full classes, waitlist classes, online classes, on-campus classes. So now I've got everything selected. It's going to show me everything that is in PeopleSoft, basically, for that term, as far as these 2 classes I've entered. Well, full classes, if I deselect that, it's not going to show me. It's not going to show me. It's not going to show me classes that are full and have no waitlist available. I think a good portion of our students, especially if they're our first semester students, are going to say, well, don't show me classes that are full but still have a wait list. I just want to see open classes. In other words, classes that have that are not full, that are not filled. So if I deselect that, and of course it's not going to do anything because we haven't started registering yet, but if I deselect that, classes that are full are going to come off of my list. If I have a student who says I don't want online classes, deselect that. It's only going to show me face-to-face. Conversely, if I have students who say, oh no, I live in Nebraska, I'm going to be going to Florida, whatever, I can't take any on-campus classes, deselect that, and it's only going to show me online classes. And so because of the 2 classes that I selected, I'm only going to see classes that are, I've only got just one choice basically. So here it is. I've got one of one. We've got one online college algebra entered in PeopleSoft right now anyway, and then one class that is FYE. So I'm going to flip that back on. So that's my sorting. I'm going to add another class just to show you, and I'm going to go ahead and make sure that both my online and on-campus are selected. I don't care about the full and the wait list just yet because no registered.
Before you do that, there's a question. Is there a tutorial for students about how to use this tool?
There is a tutorial, yes. I'm going to be completely honest with you, though. You know how all of the websites were redone back in February, March of last semester? Do you remember that? Okay, well, all of the websites kind of were readjusted, so I don't remember off the top of my head where that is. But I will find it, and I will find that tutorial, and I will send it out to whoever wants it. Chad, do you want me to just find it and send it to you?
That'd be great. Thanks, Scott.
All right, let me write that down. Find Visual Schedule Builder tutorial and send to Chad. All right, so that is on my to-do list. I will get that out there, and I'll try to do that before I leave today. So any other questions since we've kind of paused? Any other questions that anyone has out there?
I was the only one so far.
All right, good deal. And if I'm talking too fast, slow me down. Absolutely slow me down.
I will say this. When you do give me the link, what I will do is I will post that link to the tutorial on the video itself. So when the links are sent out to the videos, you can go into the video, and in the description you'll find the link to that tutorial that Scott is referencing. So continue on, Scott.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Okay, so I do want to add another class. We've just been working with these 2. Let's say that we have a student and they're like, ooh, I heard about this class called Dinosaurs and Disasters. That's a really great class. I want to take that. I'm like, okay. Well, again, let's just pretend we know that we don't know the name of the number, which it's GLY 130, but we know it has something to do with dinosaurs. And so I type in DINO. Okay, there it is, Dinosaurs and Disasters, a brief history of the vertebrates. Oh, that sounds like a fun class, so we click it. Oh, no results. Everything's gone away. All kinds of terrible things. What's happened? Well, Henderson Community College does not offer GLY 130. We don't have anyone who can teach it. It'd be great if we did, but we don't. So what Visual Schedule Builder does is it gives me a new color. Everything's color coded. So I've got green, and it gives me this little error icon. This class has no classes, still open for enrollment. And I might mention, if I have a class that's closed, or I have a class that like if this were in the fall term and all of the classes started in August, this error message will come up if we don't offer the class, or if there are no open classes, or if we are not able to enroll students because classes started in August. Yeah, there's 5 seats available, but it's past the registration. So I'm going to get the same error message. But don't worry, Visual Schedule Builder says, hey, there are still some campuses that are still offered. And so I've got Hazard in West Kentucky and Maysville and Jefferson. And just because I checked this out earlier today, I'm going to select Jefferson because, why am I selecting Jefferson? It's still offered, and Jefferson is one of the few colleges where it is offered both online and face-to-face. And Visual Schedule Builder is smart enough to know that if the student is from Henderson, certainly there's nothing wrong with on campus, but maybe I just want to see, I don't mind taking face-to-face classes in Henderson, but I can't take a face-to-face class in Louisville or the areas around Louisville where Jefferson serves. So if I select this online classes only, it will pull up over here. So here's the same information. And actually, let me navigate to right there, just so you can see. So here's my face-to-face 150. Here's my face-to-face FYE, and then the online class doesn't appear in the time grid up top because it's not in a day and a time, it's online. So it's down here in the bottom as an online class. Okay. And then it's a natural science. That's great. It's a completely online class. If proctored exams are required, there will be no more than 2. Please be aware this is an online class. So you know a few ways that it's online. 1, it's got the Z. 2, it says World Wide Web. 3, the way you know it's at least there's no live face-to-face component. It's not up in the time grid. It's down here. And then it says several times, this is an online class. This is an online class, and so forth. And then just something that this is kind of neat. It's new and neat. If you want to be successful in this class, in this course, you know, and encourage you to use academic support systems available to you. And then they've even got this little link to tutoring, and that's something I think is kind of nice little neat thing that I haven't seen before. So anyway, point is now we've selected just Henderson, but because we selected a class that wasn't available, Visual Schedule Builder does give us the option of doing that. So we've got 17 different possibilities. You know, if I say, okay, I definitely want to select that, we can do that. But because it's just an online class, we're not going to have any different numbers. We had 17 and 3 before because it's an online class and there's just one offered. So something I might want to go ahead and point out to you now. Let me kind of you know, get up here and say that this is a class we want. We really like this. We have a few ways of sharing this with our students or ourselves or whatever. First is print. It's going to do a print friendly schedule. That's great. That's wonderful. That's awesome. You know, I guess personally I'm a technology kind of person. It doesn't make sense to me to necessarily do all these things electronically and then print. But you know, if we want to print, I can click on that, and it's going to give me a nice printer-friendly version of the Visual Schedule Builder screen on the I call it the middle screen, but I guess it's on the right. There's a reason I call it the middle screen. We'll get to that here in a second. But the middle screen, where it shows my time grid, it shows the session. Notice, by the way, that FYE is a bi-term class, and I know that because of 2 reasons. One, it's got the February start date, but also down here in the term grid, the grid below the time grid, I've got a later start. I'm going to cancel that, get back. But then we can do this thing called share. And if I click on share, I have a nice link that I can copy it, and then I can email that to a student. I can, you know, if I'm working with another advisor, I can just send that via Skype, you know, whatever. It will take them to this. As a matter of fact, if I just open up a different browser and I paste that link in there, it will pull up not just Visual Schedule Builder. Give it a second there, boom, it will actually pull up the schedule that we created. And that's really handy, especially if you're sending it to somebody and they're not signed in. It sort of creates that. Now, if you've ever been working with a student and you're like, okay, we've got a schedule, this is perfect, and they go, you know, I kind of like this schedule, but it's all on Tuesday, Thursday. Maybe we could look at a different schedule that is just Monday, Wednesday, or maybe I want to do a different. This is a maybe. Maybe I want to do this, but maybe we could do a different schedule where I'm not here in the afternoon. And so what I can do is like, okay, well, if this is a maybe, I don't want to write all this stuff down. I don't want to print it, just have to do it again. So the third option on the left in the middle screen is to add to favorites. So if I click on favorite, it will take this schedule and it even color codes it, and over here I have an untitled favorite. Okay, if I click on it, it will just sort of do a mini version of what's in the middle screen, and I can even title it. We can say we're meeting with a little little Timmy. We'll call this Timmy 1. Okay, and then if I hit enter, which you can't see me hit enter, but if I hit enter, it'll save it. And it's got the date and the time that I created it. Because I'm not logged in, the moment I close the browser, this will go away. If I were signed in, it'll save it as far as I know, it'll save it as long as the classes are open for enrollment. So I'm going to collapse my favorites, which something that kind of amuses me. This has nothing to do with anything, but you notice that favorites is spelled like, you know, we do the United States, and when I do the collapse, it's spelled with the U, like the British spelling. I think that's funny. That has nothing to do with anything. It amuses me, and I like to point it out whenever I can. So I'm going to collapse that, and then so they, you know, let's say that we don't want to do FYE. So I want to take that out. How do I get rid of it? Well, I'm going to come over here to the leftmost screen, and if I just click on the X, that'll take that option away. So let's say that we want to, instead of taking college algebra, let's say that we want to take, actually, you know what, the English classes are not loaded, and I want to do another face-to-face. So let's see what's been loaded. I have it written down over here. Tell you what, we're gonna cheat. We're gonna say that we are gonna take Math 110, because I know all the math classes are loaded. Why you would take college algebra and Math 150 at the same time, I don't know, but we'll just for practice we'll work with that. All right, so we've now got okay, it's 11 o'clock class. That's great. Let's see if we can find there we go, a Monday Wednesday schedule. The students like, okay, yeah, I like that, so I'll pin it down. I'm going to keep the Dinosaurs and Disasters because it's online. That's great. I'm going to now add it to favorites, and now I have up here we have Timmy 1. I'm going to click on that, and we've now got Timmy 2, and I'll hit enter. And so I've got a couple of different classes I can toggle back and forth, and as I toggle back and forth, the schedule shows up on the right screen. If I click back to Timmy 1 and they're like, okay, I want to see that, if I hit load, give it a second, and then boom, it will reload the first one we created, the Timmy 1. And then I can just sort of toggle back and forth with the middle screen that way, and that's a way that we can sort of work with different schedules. Now, I'd like to point out, this is just a scenario where you're working with one student, and that student's kind of looking at a couple of different options. Well, I'm going to just give a little shout out to Adam Blair, who works on my campus. He advises education, and education, specifically through Murray, is rather prescriptive. There's not a lot of options that students can take. You know, they're pretty explicit about the courses that they want. And so what Adam does is he kind of creates a couple of different variations of schedules, and he will use this share link. So he'll do all of this. He'll create a favorite, and he'll maybe call it option 1, option 2, option 3 in his favorites, and then he will share the link with the students, and he'll send out to an email to all of his advisees, hey everybody, here are 3 different options of classes that you can take that are going to allow you to transfer to Murray with the classes that you need and want. And so that's another option if you have, if you're a program, if you're advisor for or a program coordinator for a program that's pretty prescriptive, where you don't have a lot of room for electives. That's another way that you can kind of make this process more efficient, is just create some ideal classes. And even if you're an AA or an AS major, you might even have a few different options where, okay, everybody, here is a possible Monday Wednesday schedule. Here's a possible, or Monday Wednesday Friday schedule. Here's a possible Tuesday Thursday schedule. Here's a possible all online schedule. You may actually hate that idea. You might be like, nope, I like the engagement. I like to meet with my students. I like to talk to them. I like to, kind of come up with a schedule that's individualized, and that's fine. That's okay. You can certainly do that as well. Okay, so I'm going to show you one more thing that kind of differs from campus to campus. So I'm actually going to throw away, I'm going to delete my Geology 130, and I'm going to delete my Math 110, and I'm going to put in my MAT 100. So the reason I put in MAT 100, and let me unpin this so that we've got my 6 options, and let me go, actually this one's fine. Okay, so why did I pick Math 100? And again, I know that this is going to be different for different campuses. Some people do things a little bit differently. So with Math 100, with Reading 100, and with English 100, with those 3 supplemental courses for co-requisite classes, a lot of times we'll have kind of linked sections. So maybe an English 100 is linked to a specific section of English 101, or maybe we have a Reading 100 that's linked to a specific psychology class, or something like that. We will have oftentimes more than one section. And what's worse is, especially like at Henderson, where our Math 100 is sort of built into the Math 150, notice that the Math 100 appears just down here in my my term grid, but it doesn't appear up here in the time grid, because our college algebras build the 100 time in with the course. So in other words, notice that this Tuesday, Thursday is section 3501, and it meets from 8 to 10:10. That's just how we do that. That extra time, instead of meeting 2 days a week in an hour and 15 minutes, or 3 days a week at 50 or whatever, it's 2 days a week for 2 hours and 10 minutes because the lab is built in. And so depending on what your campus does, you may have to pay attention to that. What we do is we link Math 3501, this top class, is linked with the 3501 150. And that's just how we sort of keep that together. Another way that you can tell that they're linked is, you know, they have the same instructor. If they're not linked and your campus does something different, then it's not going to mean something. But I do want to point out that, you know, you do have to be careful with co-requisite courses if your college is one of those that links the, you know, English 101 with this section of 100. Another way that you might be able to tell too is if a class normally has a cap of, say, 24, and you have sections that have 12 and 12, and I can actually show you that with Bluegrass, and I will here in a second. You can see that some sections are linked. Another reason I wanted to pull up the 100 is to show you that because we have two classes that are basically the same, we're going to have the one color banner, and then we have different sections underneath it. And so that means that basically these are, from PeopleSoft's perspective, very much so identical choices. So I'm going to switch to Bluegrass because they have an excellent example. I'm going to turn off Henderson. I'm going to turn off the 100. And then, so all I did is I just selected Bluegrass, and I deleted the 100. We have 12 options at Bluegrass, and if you click through, you know, you'll see the different 12 options. But notice for all 12 options, we have one blue banner with different sections underneath. So what's going on here? Well, I'm just going to kind of point out the top two options. Notice that they're both in room 116 at the Leestown campus. Okay, they're both quantitative reasoning. They have different PeopleSoft numbers, but look at the section number. We have 1501. We have 15A1. These two are essentially they're essentially the same. They're the same class. What's the difference? Well, notice in the text below, department consent is required to register. Students enroll in this section must also enroll in MAT 9615A1. So they have a supplemental course, Math 96, linked with this section of 150. So if you're standing in the physical room, you know, this class is Monday, Wednesday from 11 to 12:15. It's on the Leestown campus. It's in room 116 in Building M. The same students are sitting in there. There are 32 students who are in this classroom. There are 32 students in there. 16 of them are just plain old 150 students. 16 of them are also enrolled in MAT 9615A1. And again, the 9615A Bluegrass is doing something similar to what Henderson does. Their 150 15A1 is linked to Math 96 15A1. So by kind of reading that, we can sort of get some clues as to what's going on. And then we have, you know, kind of you know, these two are linked. We have a similar situation where we have, you know, from Monday, Wednesday from 11 to 12:15, we have this section of Math 150. This one's on the Cooper Drive. This one's on the Newton. And this one's in Newton in room 112. This one's in the Newton classroom and room 304. So all of these sections are Monday, Wednesday, 11 to 12:15. All of these start January 14th through May 14th. And then as I click through the different iterations, we can see, okay, this one is Tuesday, Thursday, 2 to 3:15. Again, Building A, room 116 on the Leestown campus, room 116, Building A, the Leestown campus. Still starts January 14th to May 12th. It's just a different day and time than the previous screen. But this one's just a plain old Math 150. This one is linked with Math 96. Notice again 15A2 is linked with 15A2. And so as we click through, especially I'm just going to click off the on-campus. If I look at just the online offerings, definitely anything's online. If it's January 14th to May 12th, is going to show up here. Now, if I had, say it has a section that started in February, then I'd have two options, and here are all the online that start on January 14th, and then option 2 would just be all of the February math classes. Okay, does that make sense? I know that really confuses people when they see the blue banner and they have the different different options. So, did I explain that well, or is that clear as mud? Any questions so far?
I don't see anything posted, Scott. Hey, this is Paige.
Hey, you don't see anything posted. What do you mean?
No questions. No questions.
Oh. No questions posted. All right, good deal, good deal. All right, so that having been said, if I've done all this as a guest, okay, I've done all this not signed in, and there is a reason. So if I were to sign in, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do that now. Okay, there are a couple of things that, if you're a student especially, that are useful. So let's just do, again, because I know that the math classes are loaded in for us. Okay, student screen looks a little bit different. Notice that I've got a few extra things. One, I've got this lock right here. Click this, click to lock this course. So that if the schedule is recommended to a student, will force a student to include this course. So this is a little bit new, and I'm a little bit weird. I mean, y'all who know me know that's definitely true. I'm a little bit weird in that I'm one of those people who takes advantage of the free classes, so I'm always taking classes, so I'm both a student and an advisor. So if you've got the advisor, if you're an advisor, which I'm sure everybody on this is most of the people on this are faculty and are therefore advisors. We can recommend a course to a student, and then when the student goes to Visual Schedule Builder, that will show up. So I can actually I can send a recommendation to a student as an advisor, and so if I click on that, I can put in a student ID. I can label the title of recommendation. I can send a little message like, hey, since you're an MSU education student, you have no choice. You have to take History 109. Don't know if that's true or not, but I'm just saying, it doesn't matter. You need a heritage class, but because of your major, you absolutely must take this course. You can make it mandatory so that they have to recommend it. Excuse me, the recommendation means that they have to take it, so they have no choice. When they go to register, if they're registering from him, and then you can do this permit additional courses. So in other words, if you create a schedule and it has 2 or 3 classes, you can allow the student to add classes, but then if they can't delete any of their mandatory classes. So from the advisor point of view, the recommend is kind of nice if you want to prescribe, classes, or say a student is they're in a developmental course, and hopefully most people on this know that if you have a developmental need, you have to be working on your developmental classes every single semester that you're enrolled. So if you've placed into developmental math, you're supposed to be working on developmental math every semester. That's KCTCS policy, and that's actually even in Kentucky state legislation. So that might be another reason why you might make something mandatory. So you can save, send, duplicate, send, and that sort of thing. I'm going to come back over here, and as a student, and this is the part where my screen's going to be weird. That's why I wanted to wait before I did this screen. Once I'm a student, once my switch is flipped, once I have permission to enroll, I can actually send my schedule as a student. I can send this to my course cart. My enrollment's blocked yet because we're not registering. So this is something that you will see on the student. So let me make sure that I'm very clear about this. I really didn't want to show the screen until you'd seen Visual Schedule Builder. The recommend is a function that an advisor sees. So an advisor has this, but a student does not. The send schedule to course cart, that's something that a student is going to have, but an advisor is not. So my screen has a whole bunch of stuff that you're not going to you're not going to see on most people's screen. They're either going to be a student or an advisor, not both. And then if a student does have something in their planner, so if they take FYE, I think most FYE classes, one of the assignments is you have to do a planner. You can actually import plans of terms that are available for enrollment. So if I had anything in my PeopleSoft My Planner, I could actually import that into Visual Schedule Builder, and it would load it in. So that's a really nice thing if you have students. If you have students who use their PeopleSoft Planner, is that they don't have to recreate the wheel. They can just bring that in. Okay, so that is that's a real quick overview of Visual Schedule Builder. I had a couple other things that I was going to show you, but before I do, any questions on Visual Schedule Builder before I move on to something different? I'll come back over here, see if anybody's okay. No, I'm not going to do that because that just wigs me out. All right, so Paige, any questions posted?
Nope. Let's see. Tina was saying she's never been able to sign in. She would always advise as a guest or have the student log in to self-service, but she wasn't sure what she was doing incorrectly.
Yeah, that is a great. I'm glad. Thank you, Tina. I'm glad somebody mentioned that. That is an excellent advising practice.
You had some others chiming in that happened to them as well. So sounds like a great question, Tina.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. As a matter of fact, there are some people who never, ever log in. They always do everything as a guest, and so they'll bring their advisee in, and they do everything as a guest, or they will have their student log in, and then they just have the student in their account create a schedule, and then once you do that, you click on the Send Schedule to Course Cart, and that will actually take you into PeopleSoft. And then you can just register right then and there. So it's a one-step. The student leaves your office with a schedule in hand. And I know that some people have said they've never been able to log into Visual Schedule. I've heard that on my campus. I don't know. I can't answer that. That's beyond me. But I do that too. When I advise, I try to keep it logged in as a guest. And then once the student, and I have a good schedule, then I usually don't actually have them sign in on my computer, because our technology solutions on our campus is kind of finicky about that. They don't want students doing that. I don't know why, if I'm sitting there with them, but different story or whatever. But if your campus is like, oh no, that's the way we do it, that's an excellent advising practice. That way you've got an advising session, and you've also scheduled, and they walk out the door with their schedule in hand. So thanks for bringing that up. Excellent point. I honestly didn't mean to mention that, but I will be honest, I kind of forgot. So thanks. Anybody else? You said some other people were chiming in. Any other tips or best practices that anybody wants to share about Visual Schedule Builder?
So Tina, did that help you be able to log in? Or Scott, if they can't log in to that, who do they go to be able to get access to log into it?
Well, I'm going to be honest, on our campus, people's like, I've never been able to log in, but I don't care. Obviously I would think you'd want to start with technology solutions, but, and I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. Whenever I've ever had any questions or suggestions, Kim Hayden is sort of the systems office, Visual Schedule Builder queen. I'm sure she is sick of hearing from me and sick of seeing me, because I'm always emailing her and saying, hey, can we do this? Hey, can we do this? But if you can't get logged in, I think your first step is probably just to talk to your technology solutions folks. But I've never explored it. I've never pursued it, because on our campus, we just, I don't think the people who use it typically don't log in. Or if you go to MyPath, and that's how you're getting into it, you've logged into MyPath, and I just kind of stay logged into MyPath. It's never been an issue, because it's actually the opposite problem. I can't get it to log out. So I will go to Visual Schedule Builder, and because I'm logged into MyPath, it's automatically logged me into Visual Schedule Builder. And so maybe that's another option. Instead of navigating to Visual Schedule Builder first, see if you log into MyPath, and I'll just show you that instead of talking. So you're having trouble logging into Visual Schedule Builder, maybe just go ahead and log into MyPath, which again, I just remain logged into MyPath. So we log in there, and then after you've logged into MyPath, go back, just open up a new new tab, and then education and training, and then visual schedule builder from there. And because you're logged into MyPath in this tab, it will automatically log in over here. So that might be something you might try to, sort of a backdoor way of doing it is log into MyPath first. And if that doesn't work, then we're at the end of my knowledge. It was a short walk.
I just posted
Okay,
the help desk. I just posted in the chat area the help desk link. So if they want to submit a help desk ticket, you guys can do that as well. That may help with that. At least get you the answers.
All right. So any other tips or best practices or anything anybody wants to share? Okay. So I'm going to I'm going to somewhat move on, but not really, because again I'm going to focus on Visual Schedule Builder. So what I have, and I wish in some ways that all colleges had kind of the same universal language, same degree plan, same map, or whatever you want to call it. So this is what Henderson Community College's Associate in Arts degree looks like. I can't show you all 16 different colleges, maps or degree plans, or I don't know what all the synonyms for that out there are. But regardless of what your form looks like, there is one area that just seems to, at least on our campus, give advisors the hardest time, and that is the cultural studies. And so, I've created these nice little forms so that, if a student, on our degree plan, if they take an intro to the art, or intro to African art, that is a cultural studies class, and it automatically generates down here. That's just something I've done, but Art 105 does not, so it's not a cultural studies. So when you're working with your students and you've got, if you've got a degree plan, and some of you all out there do, some of you have degree plans that will do this exact same thing, is that once you've got an art class or a humanities class or something that meets that cultural studies, it will automatically indicate, somewhere that, I cannot click right. It'll automatically do that. Or maybe you have a drop down with cultural studies. Some of you don't, and so you just open up the catalog, and it's on page 74, 75, 76, something like that, all of the cultural studies, and there's nothing wrong with that. But here's something else you can do. When you're looking for a course, there's a little link underneath here, if you're logged in, that pulls up course attributes. And so here are all the different attributes. So if we're looking for a cultural studies course, okay, and I'm going to be honest, I really don't even usually do that much more. I could type in, okay, so let's say I'm looking for an art class. It's also a cultural class. Here are all of the art classes that are cultural classes, or at least use the word art in it somewhere. So arts and humanities, so there's the WGS 201. So I can do sort of a search by attribute, and here are all the classes. Now if I don't put that search phrase in there and I click on search, it's literally just going to pull up every single cultural studies in the entire catalog. Okay, and then if you're like me, I also have trouble. I can't ever remember which of those WGS, is it WGS, is it WGS 201 or is it 202, that is the social and behavioral versus the arts and humanities. Well, here's another way that I can do that. If I'm like, okay, well, we need a humanities course, then okay, the 201 is the humanities course. If I need a social and behavioral class, it's the 200. And I'm not even making that up. I never can keep the 201 versus 200 straight in my head. So that's another little aspect of Visual Schedule Builder that can kind of help you. But again, if you've got a degree plan like this one that does that may not be as useful to you. But if you're doing it the reverse, where you have a student, they're like, you know what, I really don't care. I just need a cultural class. I don't care what it is. I'm just looking at electives now, or I want to take a women's studies class, but I want to take the one that's going to help me the best, and they've already got a humanities. And so you're like, well, if you like women's studies and you took the one that's humanities, let's take the one that's the social and behavioral. That'll help you. So there's just another little aspect. All right, we have 11 minutes left, and there is one more thing that I really did want to show you that, again, may not be relevant to everybody. And that is if you are advising a first semester student, and maybe you're helping out in your admissions or start center, or whatever your campus calls that, or maybe you're just meeting with a student and you're the first point of contact. Not everybody has this, but I did want to show at least show you OnBase. And we're not going to have time, I don't think, to do the notes in PeopleSoft or the notes in Starfish, but I at least want to show OnBase because some folks had talked about that. So if you have OnBase loaded on your computer, little tip from me to you: if you have a desktop icon, at least in my experience, the desktop icon about 20% of the time doesn't work. OnBase lives in the system tray if you have it. So if you right-click and click on Launch Utility Client, we will have OnBase. I've used it recently, so it's defaulted to the ST full student record. If you click on that and you happen to know your student's EMPL ID, which I actually it logged out of me. Okay, forgive me, I talked too long, so bear in mind I don't have my EMPL ID memorized. So give me 1 second. Let me pull up an EMPL ID. So you have an EMPL ID. I'm just going to copy that. No, we're not going to do that. All right, so we have an EMPL ID, and I'm just going to use me. Okay, and then search. What does OnBase do? What is OnBase? Well, this is all of the admissions stuff that students have. So there's my acceptance letter back when I was a student. Here's my application in 2017 when I wanted to take a class. Here's my application when I first came back in 2013. A student history, any registration changes. So those are like where we put the registration sheets and so forth. So also within this is it's a transcript request. I did not read closely. So this is going to be my transcript request. It's my actual transcript. Well, that's unfortunate. I was hoping that it actually had my high school transcript, and it does not. Well, if I double click on any document, it's going to pull up the transcript. It's going to pull up that document. And I thought I had my high school transcript, but we're just going to pretend that that's my high school transcript, not a transcript request. So if I double click on the high school quote-unquote transcript, it will pull up the quote-unquote high school transcript. On that, if you're needing to know a student's GPA, because your campus has, okay, well, if you have a GPA of a 3.0, then you can take English 101, or if you have a 3.0, you can take, Math 150 or whatever, some of those GPA requirements in order to get into classes. Well, GPA does live in PeopleSoft, but it doesn't live in the PeopleSoft Faculty Center, the Student Center in PeopleSoft. So in other words, if I click on me, there is not a high school GPA in here anywhere. I can look at degrees conferred, we can look at test scores and that sort of thing, but there's just no, test scores or anything. There's no high school GPA. So if you need to know a student's high school GPA, you can, if they have their high school transcript loaded on OnBase, you can go to full student record, type in their EMPL, and then here are all of their admissions documents, and you can find their high school GPA from that. So I do know that some people had asked if I could talk about OnBase, so there you go. All right, it is 11:53. I did want to have some time for questions, comments, or discussion, that sort of thing. So anybody have any questions, comments, or best practices that they want to share with me or with the group? Paige, do you see anything? Chad?
I do not, although somebody from Gateway, I don't know who they are because they came in as Gateway CTC, said that there's a pilot that now allows faculty and staff to log into VBS, and it will be coming out to all soon. So that may be what's going on.
Yes. Yeah, there's Visual Schedule Builder. I think I said this at the very beginning of the session, but yeah, there is a newer version of Visual Schedule Builder that again, the changes are, they're not going to be overwhelming. So everything you've seen today is fine. They've just added a few more bells and whistles and that sort of thing. So good to mention that again. All right, well, I have presented all the information I think I have time to present. So any last minute questions or comments for the group?
Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and expertise, Scott. This was great. And
All right.
I think a lot of folks appreciated that, and to see how it works from the login side as well as the guest side where some people are going in. Melissa has a comment for you. Says it's been very helpful and informative session. Thank you for walking us through the program and giving us tips and tricks for making advising sessions more efficient, especially for those of us who haven't been doing this very long. So lots of kudos to you, Scott. Thanks so much.
Thank you. If you ever have any questions, or if you ever want me to answer anything, anyone on here, I'm at Henderson, Scott Taylor. Shoot me an email, give me a call, and I'll be happy to find an answer for you if I don't know it.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Y'all take care.